Hadi Naqui from Usdaw.
Hi everyone, Dave here. This is my Unmatched podcast, and I'm doing this podcast because it's my way of giving back. First and foremost, I am the UK TUC Organising Award winner of 2024. And I was the Trade Union Rep of the Year for these guys. And what I want to do is give back and give a sort of platform to all those people who worked hard and are unmatched in their abilities and their talents, but may not necessarily have the access to be able to showcase that. And from this, I hope that through listening to them and listening to their journey, you yourself will find inspiration, methods to actually apply within your hustle business, whatever you're planning to do within your, even if you're working as a trade unionist, whichever route you're looking at taking, I want you to feel within this journey, we're all having a lot of fun and that we're all quite similar, and to keep pushing and striving, because at the end of the day, it's not just about reaching the destination, it's about enjoying the journey too, and listening and learning from others so you can gain the same experience that they've got just a little bit faster without as many mistakes. So my guest today is from North America, USA. He's my first guest, Chester Copley. Chester is a 42-year-old originally from California. He grew up in an underprivileged area of Nashville, Tennessee. And from a young age, he learned the values of money and the importance of hustling to make ends meet. Chester owns his own trucking business and operates across the United States, and recently started a computer building business to teach his kids about entrepreneurship. Despite not attending college, Chester has found success through continuous learning and determination. And I'm really proud to be able to have Chester on today so that we can get on and learn from him. So, Chester, I'm now going to stop talking about us. Tell us more about yourself, my friend.
Hey, everybody. So, my name is Chester Copley, and I'm 42 years old, like you said. And I am originally from California. Bless them out there because they're having a little bit of issues right now with the wildfires. But um, come up from a young age, always interested in money. And as a child growing up in an underprivileged area, you don't really have the resources, especially in the neighborhoods, to get a really good education, but so the baseline is there. My dad was an alcoholic, so I learned about substance at a young age. So it's hard to talk about that sometimes, but you learn a lot when you see substance and stuff like that in the house, drug use, stuff like that. My mom worked very hard for me and my sister. My sister actually got married at a young age. At 15, she was out the house. I was 7 years younger than hers. About about 8 or 9 is when she moved out of the house. And yeah, that was a rough time. So I didn't have much money. My mom paid all the bills, so there wasn't a lot of money in the house. So I learned to go out and find things to buy, or not even just buy, just find. And a lot of these grocery stores or like dollar stores back in the day, they used to just throw out brand new products. So I go find them and go flip them, and make some money for a kid. And you'll be surprised how many people want to buy something from a kid that's just trying to make a little change. So that's what I did. I took full advantage of that. But, I wasn't asking for something for nothing. I was actually going out there putting in the work, and that's what you have to do. That's how I learned. But you work hard, and good stuff will come your way. Now it's all about, when you get older, it's about working smarter and not harder. You learn that as you go, though. So, but when you're young, you got to put in the work and the time and the energy, and you get all that knowledge. Knowledge is what we need every day. It's what keeps us going. and focus.
Well, you've definitely learned a lot along the way based upon experience. You learn more
Of
about,
course.
especially from a business side of things. Businesses teach you much more through when you're actually doing the business, such as
Yes.
credit control, how to manage time efficiently, recruitment, even down to things like people skills and learning how to
Yep.
sell. Key skills. And of course, as you run your own trucking company, getting the business coming in as well, that must have been a skill that has taken a bit of time for you to develop.
Yeah. So the main thing there is when I started my truck. Well, I didn't start out owning my own trucking company. I went in 2010. I went to truck driving school. Before that, I was an auto mechanic because remember I told you I was before I was fixing and flipping cars. During my teenage years, up till I was about 28 years old, I was an auto mechanic. So I learned out how to fix cars, flip cars, make money that way. And then I see one of my friends was like, "Hey, you should come drive a semi truck." And I'm like, I'm making $1,000 a week right now. I'm okay, you know. And he was like, $1,000 a week? I'm making $3,000 a week, man. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. 2010, I went to truck driving school. Um, and it took about 6 months, got through that, and started driving a truck.
So, what was your experiences like?
Hey everyone, you might be lucky to get safety boots from your employer. And these are absolutely fine to have, but guess what? They don't necessarily have the right supports and can leave you feeling aches and pains, especially in your arches at the end of the day, leading to fallen arches. So make sure you get some arch supports. These are useful. They slip into your boot and give the same comfort as trainers, enabling you to walk around all day long doing all the heavy lifting no matter what the job is that you're doing, and you won't feel any pain at the end of the day. They will leave you feeling really good at the end of the day, so make sure you order yours at the TikTok shop for the price of less than a packet of chips.
Driving a truck itself.
So at first, it's very stressful, because it's just like anything new that you jump into, like imagine when you first started driving a car. You drive a car, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We have lots of cars and stuff here in America, but I've heard in England there's like one car per family or something like that. I got 6 cars. So
Oh, wow. Okay, right. Well, yeah,
yeah,
cars are quite expensive, and credit, being able to gain access to credit in the same way as in the USA is
gotcha.
not as easy.
It's not as easy.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you get one car, that's fine.
That's good. And there's not a lot of space over there either. I have been to Germany and there's not, I mean, it's a little bit bigger than England, I assume, but it's not a lot of space. Um, so back to where we were, I started in trucking in 2010, started going through that process. It took me about 6 months to really get comfortable in the truck because when you're driving something that's 80,000 pounds and it's huge, it's a little bit unnerving, to say the least, especially when you're really heavy. So about 6 months in, I realized I was like, yeah, I like traveling the country. I like seeing because it's really beautiful. North America is beautiful. Even getting up to Canada. Don't like to go up there because it's too cold, but um, yeah, getting up in there into Canada is really pretty.
I've heard. I've heard that is very picturesque.
Yes, it is. So me and my wife, I tell her when we retire, we're just gonna get like an RV or a bus or something, and we're just gonna travel.
Based upon your current business trajectory, that should be another 2 years.
Yeah, well, I like working, so I won't retire until I'm probably 70, man. I mean, I just don't see myself. One of my friend's dads always told me, like, you stop moving, you stop living. So
Oh, yeah, I've heard the same thing too. And with some people, I've actually seen that.
yeah,
So, it is what it is. It's a work ethic and, an
yeah,
entrepreneurship mindset as well, because you're going to be doing something.
exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize, because most people get into, let's say, a job, they get into a workforce by an average job, right? Your mindset is totally different. Like, I can tell you from experience that I am not a good employee because
I
I like to be the boss. You know, I like to make sure that stuff's getting done. I want to call the shots, but along with that comes a lot of risk. So that's the thing about business is you have all the risks. So if something goes bad, it's on you.
really understand that, been there, so I know what you're talking about. Well, so what made you actually take this decision to follow this path of business?
So what made me take this path in trucking was that I like traveling. I
Yeah.
realized that I liked being on the open road, traveling across the U.S. It was just really intriguing to me. And over the years, I've done over 1 million miles, and I've seen almost I haven't seen every part of the U.S., but I've seen most of it. And from Yellowstone all the way up into Maine, it's really, the whole country is, every time I wake up, I'm in a different spot, you know?
Is that why you're driving when you're saying when you wake up? It's like, oh, no, only
Well, you
kidding,
know,
only kidding.
I open the curtains, I'm like, oh, look at that. There's the ocean, So, you don't get many jobs that'll let you do that, or
No, that is
businesses.
true.
So,
That is true.
unless you're like an airline pilot or something like that.
Well, it would be crazy for an airline pilot to fall asleep at the controls and then wake up suddenly.
That's a pilot. And he was like, we've nod off from here and there, but there's two of them. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
that's
mean, there's
why they
no
have
lights in
to.
the air to there's no like street lamps in
Correct. Yeah.
50,000 feet
So
altitude.
you get up there at 35,000 feet, and there's nothing up there. So, but yeah, so waking up every day in a different spot sound great to me. So I started doing that. 6 months in, I realized I wanted to own my own truck. So at that point, I didn't go out and like find a truck and buy it. I worked for a company because I wanted to learn every step of the way and do all the mistakes on the company dime. That way, when you jump in to the industry with your own truck, you're not making those mistakes, because some mistakes can cost you your whole business.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, and that's very worthy advice as well. If you're gonna get that experience, do it on someone else's time.
Yeah, and that's in any business. I would that piece of advice goes across all aspects of business. Even the top CEOs will tell you the same thing. Like, don't just jump. If you're going to jump in, you better have some money behind you, because if you don't, if something goes bad and you can't absorb that mistake, then you're out of business.
Which also goes down to the next thing, which is cash flow. Cash flow is the most important. According to Robert Kiyosaki, the most important thing to any business
Yep.
is having that cash flow always in a positive. And being within a industry like yours, where it's invoice based,
Yep.
how did you manage your credit control?
So basically, before I got on the road in my own truck, I had about $100,000 saved up. So I had enough in reserves that if something like my truck blew up or something like that, I could either rebuild the engine in the truck or I could buy a new truck. Not a lot of people do that. They'll just wing it and go in, and the next year they're back in a company truck. And that happens all the time. And it's a risk. Anything, like I said, anything you do in business is a risk. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
In terms of the industry you're in, because again, you're also building computers as another
Right.
business with you and your family. How are you finding that time management? Because time management for me has always been one of the biggest challenges in
Right.
any form of, and one of the big issues with time management is you may plan out your day, then suddenly something pops up, and then they ask, it takes priority. How do you react to that kind of challenge, especially in your industry and doing two businesses at the same time?
So for me, basically what I do is I take one thing at a time. So I do have my day planned out. Like, I woke up at 4:30 this morning. I did my workout. I got my coffee, walked around the truck stop a little bit, snow on the ground. It's wonderful. Breathe in the cold air. And then from there, I basically just make sure I go through my emails, make sure all my emails are, that I have to respond to, I get done. It takes about 30, 45 minutes, somewhere in there. So about 6 o'clock, I'm on the road. So I jumped up about 6 o'clock, check all my tires on my truck, make sure there's nothing falling off the truck, and down the road. I stopped where I'm at now in Virginia just for a break and to jump on this call with you. And I'm headed home today, so I'll be home in a little bit, about 5 or 6 o'clock this afternoon. I'm looking at the GPS right now. About 6 o'clock this afternoon. Um, I have a little bit of time to go into my computer business while I'm home, because basically what I do is I start my day that way. And then if I go on my apps, if I have anything that I've purchased for the business, for the computer business, I pay for it and it gets shipped to the house. The kids can inventory it because I've taught them how to inventory everything as it comes in and test it. So we kind of have a system going that as stuff comes in, it gets inventoried, it gets tested, And then when I get home, we kind of go through everything and then we build systems out.
Now, obviously, for business, both the businesses are very
Right.
much fluid businesses because they're constantly developing. And there's always new challenges. Within your industry, I'm going to be focused on the trucking industry. You've obviously scaled up to have
Right.
employees and
Correct.
having to manage those, and then
Hey content creators, this is my chance to do a quick review of a product I bought on the TikTok shop and I think you guys are going to love it. It's a green screen disc that fits on the back of a chair. It can fit to almost any surface, and if you've got a area like a flat or a single bedroom or a bed set where you're living in where you've got no space, this is ideal for those who are using it for things like Twitch, streaming, or just general YouTube videos. Like so. So get yours in the TikTok shop today. I'll leave the link in here.
delegate to people as well. That's a skill in itself. Have you got any sort of tips to actually help those, people who are looking to scale up their business, bring people under them, especially those that within the business, you hire a person on their skills and expertise more than, oh, I know, like you, that kind of way, you're my buddy, because
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
business at the end of the day.
Don't
You
do
commit
that.
money to it.
Yeah, I've learned in business you don't hire your friends or family. Sometimes family. It really depends. But for the most part, for the majority of people, don't hire your friends and don't hire your family because you either going to lose a friend or you're going to have a family member that you don't, it's hard at Christmas. So those two rules in business, I do not mix. I've learned that the hard way with me and my sister in her business. It's just, I've learned I can't work for anybody but myself. So, and that's the rule that I stick to when I'm hiring. I'm looking to hire somebody. First and foremost, I look at their skill set. What do you bring to the table? What can you bring to my business that's going to improve my ROI and help you improve yours? Because, like you said, everything is time based. Whatever we can accomplish in an 8-hour period of the day or 10-hour period, if they work a little bit extra, whatever you can do to increase that productivity for the day, hey, that's just more you bring to the company, right? So that's what I'm looking for. Not necessarily if they don't know how to do something. Honesty is another thing. I want to make sure that if they don't know how to do something, they say so. Because I am that type of way. Like if I don't know how to do something, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna look into it. I don't know how to do that, but we're gonna figure it out because that's what you do in business. Anything that you do, you may not know it, but you'll figure it out pretty quickly.
Which leads on to the next part, because clearly, there's going to be times where a lot of external factors are going to cause issues within the business, such as government policy, regulatory changes, those kind of things, even legislation, which used to be okay, now it's not okay. Even technological advances. We've seen it in the UK where there's a lot more electric vehicles coming onto the market, especially within the commercial sector. So certain supermarket companies that do deliveries are now taking on electric vehicles within part of their fleet, gradually phasing out diesel. How do you, as a business owner, when these kind of things happen, how do you plan or react to it?
It's tough, especially when a government implements something that directly affects your bottom line. And the smaller the business you are, the harder it is for you, especially here. For us, it is anyway. If you have a market cap under 10 million, you're gonna feel it. And for me, I would need 10 trucks to get to that point. Right now, I'm only at 3. I have 2 other employees, 2 other drivers, and then I'm the third. So if the government comes in and puts more regulations on us, it really hurts us. It's going to affect our time, which is time management, or it's going to affect the amount of money I have to put into the business. Either it's a tax, a fuel tax, IRS tax, whatever it may be, it still affects the bottom line. And the margin, from when I first got into this business, the margin has gotten real slim. It used to be we were making so much money we didn't know what to do with it. And now that the government's put so many regulations on things, taxes, it's really, last year at one point I was like, man, why am I doing this any longer? Because the government just kept putting more and more pressure on us to go electric. It's just not ready yet. I don't see that being ready for another 20 years at least.
Yeah, in terms of what you guys have got in the USA with the mileage factor. Right now within the UK, there's a lot of buses which are electric, double-decker buses.
Right.
But the reality is, with electric fuel prices going up, reaching the same level of parity to diesel, in some places even going higher, you need to have that infrastructure already in place to be able to offset all of that.
Of
And
course.
the infrastructure is coming in, but it's taking a long time. Using fuel cells, although really good in terms of principle, it's water, it's clean, it's 90% recyclable, it's unstable. And there have been incidences where in France, buses have exploded. That video is actually on YouTube. And
Yeah,
it's not,
I've actually seen that video.
yeah, it's not graphic, thank God for that.
Thank goodness.
But it does show that the technology needs a little bit more working and developing on. And I still feel that diesel is, in terms of synthetic fuels, fingers
Right.
crossed, that's going to be the cheaper model.
So here we also use natural gas. Some vehicles use natural gas. I know all the garbage vehicles that we have here run on natural gas or propane. Propane is actually another one that's really clean, but mostly natural gas. We even have like we have diesel pumps at fuel stops. Well, there's some that have natural gas where you could just plug in natural gas and fill it back up. UPS uses that a lot. UPS and FedEx both use that a lot. They're trying to roll that electric stuff out. It's just like you were talking about the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to take decades to get to the point where it would support, was it 2 megawatts, 2 or 3 megawatts is what they're calling for 30 trucks. I mean, that's more than a city. I mean, a small city takes, right? So yeah, it's going to take a long time before we can get there. And this green energy, I love green energy. Don't get me wrong, but in the short term, it's not going to work. This has to be a long game to get there. And we're talking 50 years. In 50 years, I think it will be the norm.
Yeah, because
But
again, we're seeing it now with
Mhm.
the consumer vehicle would be the best way of putting it. People driving electric cars and so forth. Started with Toyota
Yeah.
Priuses, with the whole hybrid element behind it, and now moved on to Hyundai and all the other manufacturers. Mercedes has already had that with their blue tech technology.
Yep.
Wow.
Which I liked that when it first came out because I had a Blue Tech that I had flipped. It was a pain to work on. It was a pain to work on. Trust me. I was cussing Mercedes for 3 or 4 days. But after I got it, after I figured it out, I was like, this is awesome. And then, especially with Toyota Priuses, I figured out how to rebuild their battery packs.
Oh, wow.
So their battery packs are basically under the back seat of that vehicle. And there's about 70, I think there's 70 individual little battery packs in there. And I figured out how to test each one to see if it was bad or not. And whichever ones that tested bad, I just replaced them. So I'd go to the junkyard, find good ones in a battery. Purchase a whole battery pack and test each one of those and take out the good ones. And then I had a scanner that I just reprogrammed everything, and it was good to go.
This is absolutely fantastic because again, we do have that mutual sort of enjoyment about vehicles. But one of the things that I want to find out, as there's now a new change of government taking place in the USA, how
Yes.
do what do you feel is going to be not only the challenges for the government, but also for your business? And do you feel your government is going to, because again, Donald Trump being a businessman, regardless of what certain media say, whether he's successful or not successful, he does understand regulation, does understand taxation, and does understand,
Right.
short and simple, you got to grow a business. You got to have something to help jumpstart it. Do you feel that his presidency is going to reflect that, especially with the team he's going to select?
Well, I do because it did in the first term. During the first term, his first term, our small businesses were booming.
Yeah.
Everybody had more money. The regulations were more lax. We didn't have the government coming, taxing us here and there. So it was a lot better. So I do predict that for small businesses, it'll get a lot better, but it's going to take some time because there's a lot of damage that politicians have done that
Don't remind me.
put policies in place that it's going to take time to reverse those.
Yeah, in the UK, we had 14 years of that. So,
Yeah, we've had 16 years here. So he was only in there for 4 years, but previous to that, it was only politicians, right? So the problem, I don't want to make it political because
no,
I'm not very
I'm not trying to do
political.
that either.
Politicians don't know business for the most part. Some have business, but most of the politicians anywhere in the world are not businessmen or businesswomen. They have been in the political sector all of their life through college and up, right? They went through an internship and went right into state government or local government and on the federal government. So they have no idea what it is to run a small business or any type of business.
Far worse than that, when you've got that sort of class structure, then of course you're not going to relate to everyone because you're going to be associating with just a certain core element of people. And that's why personally I love the trade union movement so much. Again, the UK is different. There has been a lot of changes and there has been a cultural shift within the trade union movement because not everyone is as aggressive in many of the aspects. A lot of people want trade unions to represent their needs, their basic needs, better health and safety regulations, better pay, so on and so forth. And I know within the USA is quite good because you guys also had a very strong trade union movement there. I think the Teamsters is the most famous out of all of them.
Right.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa made them famous. So the trade unions are good. I don't. If somebody wants to be in a trade union, that's great, right? For me, I like the free trade. I like to be able to go in and negotiate business myself. Even if I was an employee and I'm a very, very motivated employee, I'm going into a business like not how much money I can make right off the bat, because it's not always about the money at first. It's about learning. Going into that business and learning everything you can. And then when you start producing, that's when you start asking for the money. That's where the money will come.
Yeah, but you've got a different mindset because you've come from a different experience. And this is where a lot of people, do you feel a politician will be able to do that? No, because they haven't come from that same sort of, they haven't come through the same grit or the same sort of attitude that you've had to endure. You've had the hustle of the mindset, You're flipping cars, you've started your businesses, and now you've been really successful and you're scaling up currently, It's just ensuring that the challenges, unfortunately, it's down to regulation, and we know that the regulators need to, and this is where I find the biggest frustration when it comes to business, because I used to be a mortgage advisor, and again, with the frustrations of our regulators and going in, the compliance people would take it to an extreme before you could do any kind of business. So it was strangle business before you even had a chance to make money. And if you're self-employed, that's very difficult to be able to sit back and say, okay, I can wait. No, because the bills are not waiting.
Yeah, exactly right. Them bills don't stop coming. So that's the unfortunate when you got politicians in there that don't know what they're doing, especially with regulating a business that they don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
So I think that's very dangerous for any type of business in any country. When regulators start doing that and politicians start putting regulations in place that benefit bigger business, because the bigger business, they can withstand it, right?
Yeah.
It's the small businesses that cannot. So they don't think about the recourse when they put these regulations in place, because there's somebody lobbying for that, right? And whoever's lobbying for it is who it's going to benefit.
Yeah, always follow the money. That's what.
It's always about the money.
Learn that in Superman 3. Okay, so so basically in this situation, I want to now ask you a question for a better tomorrow, because I'm a great believer that what we do now works to create a better tomorrow. So for you, what advice would you give to anyone in any business or any kind of employee mentality, self-employed mentality, whatever mentality you're looking at, for them to have a better tomorrow? What would that be, such as always have a positive mental attitude, constantly develop yourself, don't worry about the knocks. Knocks do happen. What do you feel?
So if I tell my kids this all the time. So don't worry about what you cannot control. Do what you can, right? So whatever business you're starting in, just go in and learn as much as possible. Once you start learning and you know that for sure that that's what I like to do, right? Because I don't want to push my kids or anybody into something that you don't want to do, right? Because you won't be successful. So first off, it has to be something that you're either really adamant about that you like doing, because then it doesn't feel like work, right? It's just another thing you get up and you do every day. So once you get to that point, you figure out what you want to do, learn as much as you can on somebody else's dime. Don't go try to start your own thing right away, and be patient. Patience is key. Once you do all of that, and then you're very proficient at what you do, then you can start thinking about saving. Well, you start thinking about saving right away. And then once you have your money saved and you think you're ready, or you're ready, I wouldn't say think. I try not to say think, but when you know you're ready, then take the chance. People I've noticed, even myself, when I was younger, I would be scared. That fear would keep me from jumping into something, right? So don't be scared. Failing, if you fail, okay, oh well, it's just money. You go back and make some more money and go at it again because you learned something. The problem becomes if you don't learn from that mistake and you do it again, then you're not paying attention.
I get that. You know what? That
So
is wise. That is really wise. You know, we
yeah,
do
so
learn.
be sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say we do. You know, you again from Rich Dad Poor Dad or Rich Dad Secrets that I listen to.
Hmm.
One of the
I love
sayings.
that book.
Yeah, I listen to the actual CD. Yeah, CD guys, CD. I'm that old.
Me too.
But from his Rich Dad Secrets, he actually came out and said a phrase, which was, you know, if you show me a man that's never made a mistake, I will show you the real failure in
This
life.
is a CD. For anybody that doesn't know, this is what a CD looks like.
It's all on
This
YouTube
is
now.
this is actually a DVD, but same thing.
But it's true. If you don't make a mistake, you know, have you actually done anything in life? Mistakes happen,
Yeah.
failures happen. We get up, we dust ourselves off, we learn from it. It's the old adage of never giving up and then you fail and die. No, that get that out of your head. If you
And
fail,
that
it's
is
okay.
part of it. Then I never give up because if you give up, then what are you doing it for, right? Risk is a part of it. Yeah, what you have to realize is if you want to be in business, risk is always going to be a part of it. It's all about risk management. How are you going to manage that risk when it pops up? And the faster you can overcome it, the less it affects you.
And that's what I want to find out from you because you've had to do a lot of risk management.
Yes.
You know, especially in both industries. The computer building industry. For obvious reasons, you got parts. You want to make sure they work.
Right.
Within your other industry, which is trucking, managing the route. Would be one of
Yeah.
the things. Not going down certain highways and your sat nav is not working correctly, taking you
Yeah.
into like what happened with Apple when they first brought out the Apple Maps,
Oh,
taking
man.
people into rivers.
I remember that. Like back in 2008, they had like it was Qualcomm made them, and it was a GPS, and it kept track of our log, right, our time. And I remember I was pretty new to the trucking industry. Like I said, I come out in 2010, so it was only a few years old at that point. And I remember turning down a road, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't turn down this road. And it was pavement at first, and then it turned into gravel. And then I got going down that road a little further, and I'm like, oh, there's a bridge just as wide as my truck. And I'm like, oh God, how am I going to get out of this? And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no one to call. And that's just one of those situations that it's going to test you, that you're going to have those in business, just like you have it in your day-to-day life. So it's how you navigate that and get out of it that's going to teach you and make you stronger.
How did you get out of that? Did you run over the bridge?
So I did go over the bridge. So basically I was empty. Thank goodness I was empty. And I basically, the road where I was at, like I come to the bridge and it was narrow. Well, thank goodness there was like a big cutout like into the berm. So I hugged really to the left so far and actually went up on the berm. So I was kind of like on sideways like this and lined my truck up perfectly. And I got out and checked it multiple times. I was with Swift. Swift is a big company here. That's who I started with. And I come up to that bridge, and I was like, I don't really want to go across this, but I can't back up for 3 miles, And so forward was the only way. So I got out, lined it up, and I was like, okay. So I crept my front axle up onto this bridge and got out again. I was like, is it going to hold? Because if it falls, I want to be on this side of it, because it's a river. It's like a small like river. There's probably 30 feet to the other side, which, it's pretty big. So
Wow.
got my truck up on the front axle up on this thing. And I was like, okay, so if it's holding the truck, which is 20,000 pounds, I'm like, I should be able to drive across it. So once I got that truck up on there and it was holding, it didn't fall in, I just right across that sucker. Luckily, there was no more of those, and I ended up on the other side unscathed, but it was just a high-stress situation.
But anyone who's in trucking or any kind of transportation logistics industry will tell you hundreds and thousands of stories like this. And they are worth listening to because they, how they navigate, how they overcome, this is real.
Hey everyone, I got this massage gun from TikTok shop and I'm doing a quick review on it. So you have the gun itself for different heads, and they're all worth it. Easy to fit on heads, easy to turn on, and different settings. So whatever kind of job you do, warehouse, driving, if you're coming back from the gym, hard day at work, this
feats of being unmatched. Now, just to, before we finish off on this one, because I don't want you running, low or anything like that. I met Chester via a Facebook community called Gaming Dads, and we set up an entrepreneur group within it. And basically, I also wanted to talk to Chester about gaming, because clearly he's a dad, he enjoys gaming. So where's your game of choice?
My game of choice is Once Human. Me and my wife play Once Human. I play that. I play a little bit too much of it sometimes, but it's like an Ark survival game. Basically, you go in and build your own stuff, build your house, things like that. I haven't got to play it in a little bit, but I play that. I play GTA, which I'm excited for the new one that's coming out. And I also play Call of Duty with the wife.
Okay, so are you on PC? Are you Xbox, PS, or are you mobile? I know some people think mobile is not gaming. It is.
Mobile is it's okay for a pinch, right?
Yeah.
But for me, we started off the whole house, me and my kids, my wife. We started off on PlayStation. So back in the day, I had PlayStation, had consoles. We grew up playing video games. That was our era. We started on Ataris and stuff like that.
Yeah. Guys, if
went
you're
through all
very
that.
young, we'll tell you Ataris later. Go Google it.
Right, Game Boys and all of that. We've had all that, right? So that's how we started. When I was about 20, I saw one of my friends, his dad was a computer tech, and they were building their own systems. So I was like, well, that's interesting, because I like tinkering with stuff. Like, I like taking stuff apart and putting it back together and figure out how it works or to fix it, right? So that's how I become into gaming, like, heavily, especially with computers now. So currently, we all play on PC, but we started with console. We graduated to PC mainly when my kids became very proficient at it, because they're really good they're really good gamers, and the Xbox just couldn't keep up with them anymore.
I get that.
So
Because the
they're
good thing
playing
about PC is that you
competitively.
can.
Yeah,
The good thing about PC is you can upgrade them.
Correct. So the Xbox, they just couldn't compete on the same stage as somebody that's playing competitively. So they were playing competitively, still are, but they've kind of graduated out of that and just enjoy the game now. Because that sphere is so tough to be in, right? With all the younger kids are really good. The younger kids are so good if they're not cheating. Stop cheating if you're one of those people.
Yeah, you campers.
It won't get you far in life, cheating.
No.
That's
No.
for sure. So that's how we graduated to PC. So we built my oldest son a PC, and I started with that, and he liked doing it. So we built another one, and we built another one, and before you know it, we have 6 PCs sitting around the house, and we're only using 3 of them. So I started selling them, and then that's that. That's how we got into building and selling computers.
So if you're a parent, a father, mother, and you want to make sure that you still keep up with your gaming community, Gaming Dads community is really good. If you've got a business, join the Facebook group. Feel free. That's what we're all about. We want to make sure that we build a community and hopefully network. And that reminds me. So there's kinds of business, within the trucking side. What sort of goods are you transporting?
I do everything. Right now, I'm doing household goods, which is somebody's moving. The trailer I have right now is somebody's house. So
wow.
Somebody went in and packed up all of their stuff and put it in the back of a 53-foot semi.
And you cover the whole of the USA, or is it just specific states that you will deal with?
So only states I don't do is California because of their regulations.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
California, I'll go through New York, but I won't go into like New York City or anything like that. That's too much.
And the parking there is a nightmare.
Yeah, and I don't recommend anybody, especially if you're new, to go into New York City. It's a disaster. You'll get a ticket or something, and it's going to be negative for you. Let the local guys that actually go in there every day, let them take care of that. So I just don't go to New York and California. That's my off limit.
Is there any goods that you won't touch, or under regulation you can't touch, like maybe petroleum?
So petroleum, you just have to have a tanker endorsement and a hazmat. I don't have either of those anymore. I did have them at one time. I didn't do enough of it for it to make sense financially for me to keep redoing it every 3 or 4 years, right? So hazmat you have to do, I think, every 2 years now. You got to go get FBI fingerprints, background check, all of that, and it's about $250 every 2 years. So I don't really do hazmat anymore. I did when I was with Swift back in the day, but I don't really need it anymore, so I didn't keep up with it. There's not really much you can't haul on a regular truck here in the U.S. As long as you have a CDL and you're for hire, you can haul it unless it's explosives like hazmat, stuff like that, or fuel.
And in terms of your computer business, are you looking at supplying just on a consumer basis, or are you looking at going more corporate?
So we started the computer business last July.
Yeah.
Well, last June we started doing that. Basically it started the business because as anybody in business knows, your first 2 years are your startup phase. It took me with the trucking industry, the trucking business, it took me a good 3 years before I started making really decent money because there's so much capital investment that goes into it. I actually had an engine blow up 2 years into the business. And I was just starting to make good money, and then the engine cost $22,000. So luckily, if you're doing it the right way, you're putting 20%, 25% aside just for repairs. That's what I do. I put 20 to 30% aside.
This is ideal and easy interchangeable. Even massaging different muscle groups, different settings. And if you put more pressure on it, it will put more pressure on the muscle too. And this is really good value for money. I got it from the TikTok shop and you won't regret it. Costs less than £20. Compared to Amazon, over 50. So get yours on the TikTok shop today.
And then I put another 15 to 20% aside for taxes. And the rest is either goes to support the business, about 15-20% goes to the business, and the rest comes to myself.
That'd be for marketing purposes, the 15 to 20% that goes to the business.
So it is basically it's for administrative costs, like taxes and stuff like that, road tax, just things we have to pay.
No, this is fascinating because, again, what I want to also do is use this platform as well. And fingers crossed, we can hopefully get you an additional referral. Because I've done this in the past where I've done podcasts, interview people, and people got additional business from it. And that's because people buy from people at the end of the day, and that's I'm
Exactly.
a great believer of that. And what better way of introducing a person than actually having that chat with them? And fingers crossed, something will happen from there.
I've learned that don't try to sell everybody. Just tell what you have to offer, and it will come to you. When you try to push products on people and go about that tactical sales, like the pushy salesman, usually it works probably in the short term, but for the long haul, you're not going to see many good salesmen that are that way. The good salesmen are actually, they're going to tell you what they have to offer you, they're going to show you what they have to offer you, and they're going to deliver. That's what makes a good salesman. So don't be pushy, just show what you have to offer, and you'll make money.
It's
simple.
Such sage advice right there, people. Whoever, I hope you guys take that on board because it's true. Without sales, there's no service because you need to bring in the business to begin with, But the big thing is sales is an art. And, a lot of people have this notion and idea, generally from a lot of movies like Wall Street or Boiler Room, that sale, you gotta be pushy, you gotta be aggressive.
Yeah.
No.
And like I said, in the short term that works, but it doesn't work long term. If you're
Because
trying to make a quick
customers.
Right, because it's going to turn off a lot of people, and then those people talk to other people, and it's word of mouth. If somebody has a bad experience, you're going to hear about it. If somebody has a good experience, most likely they're not going to say anything. They're just going to be like, if they're asked about it, they'll probably be like, yeah, it was great. I had a great experience. But if they have a bad experience, everybody's going to know about it.
Because the expectation is when they approach you to have a good experience. And that's why people don't talk about it, because that's the expectation.
Customer service is huge on the other side. You have to have good customer service.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. Chester, I want you to be safe getting home. Please drop me a message once you do get home safe and sound, and more importantly for this, please send a link to your business so I can then put it up here.
I will.
If anyone wants to contact Chester from any community, anywhere in the USA, apart from New York City, and probably even Los Angeles. Yeah, definitely California, especially Los Angeles with their Skid Row situation. It's gone really bad there, really
Yeah,
bad.
and have you seen what's going on there right now?
Yes, I have from recent YouTube videos. It is not a
Yeah,
pleasant experience. And it is definitely a situation of haves and the have-nots and no middle ground. And
yeah.
that's why I see a lot of people moving further out to places like Texas and Virginia, so on and so forth. That's going to happen. There is going to be migration, you know, but
Government bureaucracy is what's killed that state. That's over regulation at its finest, right there.
absolutely, I have to agree with that. And again, coming from a regulated industry, I understand when you get over regulation and over compliance, it kills more than it actually helps.
Yeah, so if anybody's looking for a computer, you can always reach out to me at houseofgamerspc@gmail.com. I will send you all of the information for that if you want to link it. And it's houseofgamerspc.com if you want to look at all of our inventory. It does sell out, so there is the cheap stuff, like let's say, well, it's not cheap, but it's your 500 and up computers, your budget builds. Those sell really quick. I can't keep those. I build so many of those, it's hard to keep those in stock. I think I have one left out of 20 I built over the holiday. I have one of them left. So the newer systems, and those are using a couple year old parts. So that's how you're able to make them cheaper, right? But they're still great PCs, and they'll do very good for any games you want to play. And then the newer stuff is starting right at about 800 to 1,000 and up.
Chester, this has been absolutely fantastic. Now, I want to finish this off with one final thing from you before I finish off
Sure.
properly. Do you have any life lesson advice that you want to give as a philosophy or life ethos or philosophy that you would like to inspire? Sorry, leave.
If you're younger and you're just starting out, stick to one thing and master that one thing. Don't try to jump all over the place and do a bunch of different things at one time because you won't get anywhere. So you want to master one craft at a time. Once you get that one thing down, then you could try something else but definitely one thing that you need to stick to, be focused and work hard.
It's
And
amazing
always
advice.
always be learning because I learn something new every day that I wouldn't have known or that I just never heard of. You're always learning. When you think you know it all, that's when you stop learning.
Chester, not only has your story been magnificent, your advice has been inspiring, you, sir, have been unmatched. Thank you for joining us. And more importantly, guys, wherever you are, please like, subscribe, download, use. This is the most important thing. Use the information. Take care for the next time.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
There we go.